Please welcome Shelley Landsman, General Manager, Microsoft Israel.
Hi, and welcome everyone to Tech Summit Tel Aviv. Thank you for coming. I just heard I met some people here, came from the Netherlands, from Ukraine, so it's not just Israel and Tel Aviv here. So thank you everyone for making the effort and coming here today. So, in order to support and empower your organization to really make the transformation to the cloud, we have prepared a very rich 2 days that will have more than 80 engineers and product managers that will share with you the cloud journey that we're making. We will have more than 60 labs open for you to experiment the cloud. And we have a great showcase just on our right that can demo you what our partners have made with us, with our partnership with them, to the cloud. And I encourage you all to visit them and really see how you can empower your organization, your startups, and make decisions on where you're taking your business. We will start the day with a keynote speaker who comes and leads the teams from Redmond, that they are committed to helping us make this change and be innovative about the cloud. He will give you a view of where we are heading, what we are promising, and how it will look later on on a journey. He is the Executive Vice President of Cloud and Enterprise, and I'm very happy to share with you today on stage, Scott Guthrie.
Thanks so much. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a real privilege to be back here in Israel, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to talk to so many people today. You know, this morning I'm going to talk about the journey to the cloud and the work that we're doing at Microsoft to enable you to build fantastic cloud-based solutions. You know, the cloud is a generational shift in computing that's happening right now. And it represents major changes for everyone, Microsoft included. And every organization over the next few years is going to need a strategy for how they move from where they are today to take advantage of what the cloud has to offer. You know, organizations are going to look to adopt new cloud-based productivity and business application solutions that enable employees to be even more successful and to create new business processes. You know, organizations are going to look to build new applications that enable them to better engage with their customers and optimize the running of their businesses. Organizations are going to look to take advantage of new data and intelligence technology, things like artificial intelligence, advanced analytics, IoT, and cognitive services, to unlock new insights about their data and enable intelligent action from it. And organizations are going to need to ensure that all of these solutions are delivered in a secure way and can be managed holistically. And it's the combination of all these different scenarios that enable organizations to become more agile, to lower their costs, and really differentiate and transform their businesses. And the Microsoft Cloud is unique in delivering on all of these different scenarios. You know, no other company has both the breadth and the depth of what the Microsoft Cloud delivers. And we deliver all of this with a global, trusted, and hybrid promise that's truly differentiated in the industry. You know, the Microsoft Cloud is a globally scaled cloud platform. And over the last several years, we've been hard at work expanding it to run all over the world. You know, the circles on this map here indicate what we call Azure regions, which are made up of clusters of data centers where you can run and deploy your apps and solutions. And they're the same data centers that in turn run things like Office 365, Dynamics 365, and all of our solutions. We now have 38 unique Azure regions deployed now around the world. To put that in perspective, that's twice the number of locations and countries than AWS. And this enables you to run your applications and your solutions closer to your customers and employees than ever before, and compete in even more geographic markets. Now, what makes each of these regions really impressive is just the sheer size of them. And we're continuing to build out capacity and activating new data centers all over the world and bringing online new regions. And what I want to do is just show off a quick video that gives you a behind-the-scenes look of what goes into just one region on this map here. Let's go ahead and play the video. Now, the Microsoft Cloud is optimized for organizations and the startups and the software companies who sell to them. And it's not just about technology. Microsoft has decades of experience supporting businesses and enterprise customers of all sizes. This means we really understand the critical requirements of running software for businesses and governments, including things like certifications, data sovereignty, security, and privacy. In fact, the Microsoft Cloud today has more compliance certifications than any other cloud vendor on the market. Microsoft is also the only technology company delivering a complete hybrid cloud solution. And this is important because hybrid cloud isn't just a trend or a buzzword. It's the reality for most organizations on the planet. And at Microsoft, we deeply understand this reality, more so than any other vendor. In fact, we're the only vendor out there with both deep on-premises experience and globally scaled public cloud data center offerings that span the entire technology stack. And hybrid cloud doesn't just mean connectivity between your on-premises data centers and a public cloud. Real hybrid means consistency across your entire technology estate. And hybrid consistency doesn't just mean infrastructure, because no company only has infrastructure. And that's why at Microsoft, we've invested in hybrid consistency across the entire technology stack, from productivity and business applications, to identity directories, to management and security, to data and application platform, and to core infrastructure. And this consistency and comprehensive approach enables real hybrid. This is sort of the unique thing that Microsoft delivers. And it in turn gives you maximum flexibility as you journey to take advantage of cloud-based solutions, and enables you to use a common set of skills and tools along the way. Now, all of these combined capabilities are leading to tremendous adoption of the Microsoft Cloud right now. 90% of the largest 500 companies in the entire world are now running their businesses using the Microsoft Cloud. This logo slide here is just a handful of some of the companies that are deployed and actively running on the Microsoft Cloud today. Let's talk about just a few of them. One of the big iconic consumer brands in the world, obviously in the automobile space, is BMW. And one of the journeys that they've made as part of the cloud was to reinvent what does the car ownership experience look like for their drivers. And they went from only about 12 months from concept to actually being in production, where they basically now have all of their new vehicles connected to the cloud and running on Azure, IoT-based solutions that can deliver a much richer car ownership experience. So the immersive dashboard inside the vehicle is now cloud delivered using Azure. The mobile companion apps that car owners can use, not just to see how their car is performing, but even do things like unlock the car, are now all connected through Azure and through an Azure-based solution. Other companies are looking to take advantage of Azure to deliver more business-based solutions to other businesses as well. And one of those companies that recently announced that they're moving to Azure from another cloud vendor is Adobe. And Adobe delivers a rich set of solutions for marketing as well as creative-based cloud solutions for designers and creative professionals. And they're looking to take advantage of Azure, not just for the global scale, but also to be able to leverage the rich data services that we provide and are able to, in turn, deliver a much richer experience to the businesses that want to take advantage of them. And it's not just about delivering to businesses. It's not just delivering new value to consumers. We also have other great companies, such as Rolls-Royce, that are looking to take advantage of the cloud to also drive down costs and improve the efficiency for their customers, who are, in this case, are airlines. So Rolls-Royce powers more than half of the airplane engines in the world, and deliver super high tuned engines that really transport people everywhere. And one of the things that they're looking to do is to be able to connect their engines up into the cloud, to be able to look in real time at the telemetry on those engines, and to be able to understand what is the health of the engine, how can they optimize it further, and then importantly to the airline, to be able to tell an airline when proactive maintenance needs to take place on that engine to avoid either downtime or potentially a catastrophic issue. And again, they're able to take advantage of what the cloud has to offer on a truly global scale to be able to provide this service literally everywhere around the world. So we've talked about the high level, cloud at a high level, and we're now going to go much deeper into some of the individual components of it. And I'm going to start by talking about some of the work that we're doing in Azure. So Azure is our cloud computing platform, and it's really the foundation upon which all of the Microsoft cloud services are built on top of. And what's great about Azure is you can use it for many different things. You can use it for infrastructure and just take advantage of its capabilities for compute, storage, and virtual machines. But you can also take advantage of a set of highly engineered services that are built on top of that infrastructure that enable you to build apps and solutions even faster. And what's nice about Azure is that it's really designed to be open and flexible. And it supports the ability to target multiple devices, to be able to use multiple operating systems, programming languages, frameworks, data services, and development tools. And this slide here highlights just some of the technologies that you can all leverage to build Azure solutions with today. And one of the things I like to always say is with Azure, you can use the best of the Windows ecosystem and the best of the Linux ecosystem together and build some truly amazing solutions where you always have that flexibility to use whatever tool is best and right for a particular job. So one of the services that we have in Azure that's incredibly popular, and it's a great way for people in the audience that haven't tried out Azure to get started, is something we call our Azure App Service, which provides an incredibly easy way that you can build and scale web apps anywhere inside Azure. And it's optimized for building the backends for web apps, for mobile apps. We support what's called logic apps, which enable you to run long-running workflows. And we also now have serverless compute capability all built into it. And what's nice about Azure App Service is it works with any programming language. So you can develop it with .NET, and we've got great Visual Studio integration. But we also support Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, and more. And when you build an app using an Azure App Service and you upload your code, we take care of things like automatically patching your environment, automatically scaling out your environment, and being able to provide kind of that full management experience around it, which enables you to focus much more on the work that you want to get done and not have to deal with a lot of administrivia. Instead, you can focus on the apps and how you deliver great value. So what I thought I'd do is, rather than just talk about it, is actually show it off and build sort of an app on stage here that highlights and maybe illustrates a little bit of what you can do with it. So I'm going to go ahead now and switch, and this is the part I just realized I have not practiced, which is how do I actually switch to demo machine 1 backstage. Great, so thankfully someone else has figured out how to do that for me. And you know, I thought since this is a Microsoft event, why don't we do our first demo on a Mac? Yeah. So just to kind of, you know, we talked about openness, but there's nothing like actually seeing it in action to really believe it. So let's go ahead and build an app from scratch. And in this case here, I'm going to use Node.js. So I could use any programming language I want to. And I need help from the audience as to what we're going to name this app. Not all at once. Oh, somebody, I heard Scott something. What was it? App Scott. Okay. Okay. We'll call it App Scott. And so we're going to go ahead. It's a Node.js app. So we're going to go ahead and create a server.js file. So we're just going to build sort of a simple app here. And I'm going to use a new tool that we just have available now called Visual Studio Code. And for people that haven't tried Visual Studio Code, it works on a Mac, it works on Linux, and it also works on Windows. And it supports a variety of different programming languages. We're seeing over 1 million developers have actually started using it over the last 6 months. And we continually update it with new capabilities. And it's got really rich support, for example, for Node.js in particular. And just so you don't have to watch me type a whole bunch of code, I'm just going to paste in a simple hello world here. And to prove it's real, I'm going to say hello, and what do you want me to say in the app? Hello, Tel Aviv. Okay. There we go. And so it's just going to listen on port 80 and send back hello, Tel Aviv when it's hit. And so we're going to hit save. I'm going to go ahead now and run this. And if I go into my browser here, it says hello, Tel Aviv. So simple app. Thank you. You're easily impressed. So anyway, so we got basically our simple app here. And we're going to come back to this in a second. But what I want to do now is take this app and I want to deploy it into the cloud using Azure. And so there's a couple different ways I could do that. I'm going to start by going into what's called the Azure Management Console, which is a web-based portal experience that I can use to basically create resources and to see how they're performing, scale them, and manage them. And so I'm just going to start here and create a new environment that I'm going to host this app into. I'm going to create what's called a web app. I'm going to name this, say, Israel Scott app with enough random things so I know it's unique. I'm just going to put this in my Israel demos folder so I can figure it out later and delete it. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit create. And what this is going to go ahead and do now is it's basically talking to Azure. And it said, let's create now an app service environment with the DNS name that I just gave it. And it's going to basically deploy in one of our regions. And I picked the region through one of those drop downs there. And this generally takes about 30 seconds. Except when you're doing a keynote, and sometimes then it takes 45 seconds. But as part of this deployment process, Azure's basically standing up this environment. It's going to basically make sure that I have virtual machines ready to be able to host and run this code. And you can see here now, it's deployed, it's built, it's ready for us to go ahead now and deploy our application that we just built. So to deploy this application, I could deploy it in a couple of different ways. The simplest way is just use FTP and just copy the files up. And so we support that, obviously. The other thing that's nice, though, about the Azure App Service, though, is it supports a number of different ways that you can also integrate with a source control system or a continuous integration process that your engineering team might already be using. So how many people here use Git? Great, okay, a number of people do. So I could, for example, connect to GitHub. I could connect to Bitbucket if I prefer Mercurial. I could connect to Visual Studio Team Services, which we'll show off a little bit later. In this case here, I'm just going to go ahead and set up what's called a local Git repository, just so I can push directly from my development machine to it in the interest of time. And so you can see it's now set up. And exposed here in the Overview tab is a Git clone URL that we're going to go back and use within our application here as part of the deployment process. So if you remember, we got our server.js file with our hello Tel Aviv. going to go ahead and I'm going to initialize Git for this directory. I'm going to add the server.js file into my repository, and I'm going to commit it. Say this is the initial check-in. These code changes are now made. And then the last thing I'm just going to do in order to deploy it is I'm going to set up what's called a remote. And this is just going to point, yep, this is why it's real. I'm going to go ahead and set up a remote, and I'm going to name it Azure, and then point the URL at it. And so this is going to basically just tell my environment I have another remote repository in the cloud called Azure. And then when I'm ready, I can say git push Azure master. This is going to push the master branch on my local machine up into the cloud. And I just do a one-time password enter for that new app service. And what I'm going to see here in just a few seconds is the files have been uploaded. Azure App Service then went ahead and deployed those across my environment. And now when I go back here, click this URL, what I should see running inside Azure deployed in one of those regions is that app we just built that says Hello Tel Aviv just to prove it's real. And what's nice is not only now do I have an app running up in the cloud, but I can also take advantage of some of the built-in services of Azure to be able to scale it out, to be able to connect it to existing networks that I might have, and to be able to start taking advantage of an even richer set of services that are provided as part of the Azure environment. So for example, let's say this app is going to be really popular. I think we might need to do a little bit more work before it becomes super popular, but let's say it was really popular. I might want to be able to scale it out so that I can have a lot more infrastructure behind it to be able to support that customer load. And what's nice about Azure is we make it easy to do that. And so built into the Azure App Service is this notion of scaling. And so right now, for example, this app is effectively running on one virtual machine. If I wanted to run it, say, on 3 virtual machines, I can just scale it using this slider here, hit save, and then that app will be deployed now across 3 virtual machines and be able to handle a lot more load. Or let's say, the downside with that though is I don't know exactly how much usage I need. I might need more than 3, but I might also need a lot less than 3 VMs. And so the other kind of cool capability that's built in is the notion of what we call auto scale. And so with auto scale, I can basically say the number of VMs I want to run. And so in this case here, I'm going to say between 1 and 6 VMs is what I want to be able to take advantage of. And then I can just go ahead and set up with the slider here and say, anytime the CPU is above 72%, I want you to add another VM up to a total of 6 VMs inside my environment. And anytime the aggregate CPU of my application falls below 22%, start turning off VMs until it falls into that range. And this gives me an ideal way that I can quickly scale up when a lot of load comes, but I can also scale down and save money when my application isn't being as frequently used. And all I need to do, go ahead and hit save. This is going to go ahead and set this configuration inside Azure. And hopefully in about 5 or 6 seconds, you'll see basically it say, hey, the configuration was saved there. And yep, there we go. And now that basically means my application has an auto scale rule set up on it. And I'm now ready to basically handle that load and be able to do things with it. And then the last thing I'll just go ahead and show, there's a lot more features here, and in the breakout talks, I think we'll go into more detail, is if I wanted to, I can now take this app service that's hosting my code and connect it back to, say, my on-premises network or to other virtual networks that I want to run inside Azure. And again, just by clicking the networking tab, I can go ahead and manage all of that and, in a pretty easy way, connect this bit of code anywhere else I want within my enterprise or anywhere else I want inside my cloud environment. And everything I'm doing here through the GUI, through our portal, can also be done through an admin command line tools that work on Bash or PowerShell, through SDKs that work with .NET and with Java and with other programming languages. And so I can also automate all the stuff here that we're doing manually right now. But hopefully you get a sense of just sort of the ease and the power with which you can now take advantage of capabilities like this in order to get started regardless of what language you use, regardless of what operating system you development on, develop on, and regardless of which platforms you want to target. So let's go back to the slides now and talk a little bit more. And what I want to do is actually invite up Israel from eToro, who's one of the companies based here in Israel that's taking advantage of Azure today, to tell us a little bit about eToro and then also talk a little bit about what it's like to develop solutions on Azure. And so here's Israel from eToro.
Hi, Scott. Always a pleasure. Hi, guys. Good morning. So a little bit about the company. So eToro is a startup that was formed a little more than 10 years ago. So we are the world's largest social investment network. What does it mean? We have a community of over 5 million customers which we cater on a daily basis. Those customers actually come to eToro, deposit money in eToro, and start trading in the global markets. And this means that customers from the UK, for example, can go and immediately, with one click, invest in the Chinese growing market, and vice versa. So these are things that, if you have to go through the traditional measures and try to do them, it's something that really cumbersome. So beyond that, we are a social network, which means that every trader or every investor in our network can actually go and see the sentiments of the financial activities done by everyone else. And his information is also public. So we have a growing communities that are growing organically within our networks of individuals and talents that basically know how to trade, understand the markets, understand the sentiments, and can really produce some serious gains. So the icing on the cake in the platform is that our customers can communicate with each other, exchange information, but instead of just following, they can also copy trade each other, which means that I can invest $1,000, for example, in Microsoft shares, but I can also invest $1,000 in Scott, assuming he has a user in our platform. So anything that Scott will be doing in his own private account will automatically be translated into financial execution in my own investment in Scott, which literally makes Scott a money manager working for me. So with that really power, we have a community, a disruptive community that really changed the ecosystem, and what we like to call it, we really democratized the financial space.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like developing this solution on Azure? Because it runs entirely inside Azure today, right?
Yeah, so we're still a hybrid environment, although most of our stuff really runs on Azure today. For us, working on Azure is really about freedom. As I said, we're in a hybrid environment. We have assets that are running both in open source stuff and also traditional Microsoft stack. So the first thing that our developers do is choose the stack that they actually like or need or be more efficient to their specific service. So we have services that are using, for example, SQL Server can be installed on IaaS or SQL Azure in case we need a more global scale and we want to replicate it across multiple regions. We have Node.js, like our HTML front is powered by a Node.js backend. We have our entire, for example, notification engine is running on top of DocumentDB because we need unstructured data on that source. So whenever a developer actually goes and designs a solution, he can really cherry pick the solution that works best from technical perspective, works best from a disaster recovery point of view. So, for example, we have, for our most critical services, we are running them across multiple data centers, Azure data centers, which can either be active-active or active-passive. So we maintain, zero downtime and very high-level SLA. For other stuff that are not that critical, we can run things that are lower scale and are cheaper. So it really helps us also balance the business criticality to the cost that we are paying on a daily basis. So overall, if you're taking the entire stack, which is very rich nowadays, it really helps us be very efficient, very effective, and deliver the most value to our organization, and not just focus on just infrastructure.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And
always a pleasure.
Using Azure. So, I think one of the things that I want to talk about is, there's lots of capabilities and lots of services on Azure. And so in the keynote, we can't really cover all of them. But I want to talk about a few of the investments that we're making that I think are particularly exciting and are things that organizations, both development and IT operations, are increasingly thinking about today. And then I think we have a really unique set of solutions with Azure. And one of those is about adopting container-based development approaches using things like Docker. And that's something I think that's top of mind for a lot of organizations to try to understand what does containerization mean and how can they easily take advantage of it. Being able to deploy apps using Docker, enables a more consistent deployment approach and enables you to build solutions that can be deployed on any Docker-enabled system. With the new .NET Core, we now provide a fantastic runtime environment with the ideal characteristics to be deployed inside a container. It's lightweight, it loads fast, it's efficient on memory and working set, and it's cross-platform and can run in any container host. So for example, you can now easily deploy container-based .NET Core applications to Azure. And with Windows Server 2016, we now have built-in support for Docker-based container management. And this provides a fantastic environment for deploying any type of Docker-based application, whether it's .NET or a different language, both in the cloud as well as in an on-premises environment. And with Visual Studio 2017, we're now providing integrated development experience that makes it easy to develop and test Docker-based containers on your local development system. And this basically means you can take any .NET code that you already have, whether it's written for .NET Core or actually written for the full .NET framework, and now run it inside a Docker-based container and get a rich local development and debugging experience with it. And then you can also take these apps and easily publish and deploy these solutions to Azure. And what I'd like to do now is actually invite Stuart on stage to show off a demo of what this looks like and how you can take advantage of it to build great applications. So here's Stuart.
Thanks, Scott. So let me get signed in on the demo machine and we can get going.
We're going to go to Stuart's demo machine backstage for folks, which is machine number 3.
Cool.
There we go.
Okay, so just very quickly, who here is writing applications in .NET and using Visual Studio? Okay, that's a lot of you. Cool. So what I've got here is an ASP.NET Core application, and I've got it loaded inside of Visual Studio 2017 Release Canada. So Scott's just been telling us some great stuff around how Docker can enable great things with my applications. And what I want to know is, how do I start to take advantage of that for my application? I'm a .NET guy. I've got a .NET solution here. Well, my experience inside Visual Studio tells me that if I want to configure something about my project, I right-click on the project. So let's do that. I'm right-click on my marketing project here. And it turns out that as I come down in here, I can right-click, drill through, and say, add Docker project support. So let's try that. That sounds promising. And as I do that, Visual Studio is now going to add a couple of files into my project that describes how to take my project, but build it using Docker. So it's giving me a nice kind of flow through that process. And the button at the top here that previously said launch in IIS Express is now saying launch in Docker. So if I click that, or if I prefer the keyboard, I can use F5. That same muscle memory that I've been refining through my time with Visual Studio and .NET is kicking in. So Visual Studio is now going to build my project, package that inside of a Docker image, and then launch an instance of that image as a container and attach the debugger to it. Let's try that again. So who'd like to see Scott do a tap dance? Show of hands? Come on, there's got to be more than that. So who here uses PowerShell, just quickly? There should be more than you of that. Every one of you that said you're a developer, you should be using PowerShell. It's like .NET and scripting combined, and it's awesome.
So the thing that's good when you actually Docker enable that project, it's doing a couple different things for you. One is it's creating a Docker file as part of the project, and that's just a standard Docker file that you'd use inside any environment. and basically gives you kind of the ability to name an image that you want that project to be based on. And so, for example, if it was a project that was using .NET Core, it would reference, for example, the base image that we support with .NET Core, but it can also reference, for example, the full .NET, as well as kind of other Windows-based container technology, and in addition to now Linux-based container technology as well.
Wow. I think this machine's gone to sleep.
Tell you what, should I try on my machine?
Race you.
We'll race you. Okay. So.
There you go. Build succeeded.
Okay.
The race was on.
The race
So
was on.
picking up on your point around the Docker file being there, one of the things I really like about the way this integration works, oh no, it ran a minute ago. One of the things I really like about that integration is it puts that bootstrapping in, but it doesn't force me to go in and edit it. But if I want to get to that point at a later stage, I absolutely can.
Do it one more time, and then if that doesn't work, let's just try it on my machine, and I'll make it up as I go along. So the beauty about what Docker gives you is the ability for you to effectively know that whatever image is going to work on your local machine, assuming it works, will also work in the remote machine. So tell you what, let's do a real-time demo switch, and let's see if I can actually come up with this demo on the fly from scratch for the first time in front of all of you, which will be exciting and fun and just show off how easy it is to get started. So we're inside Visual Studio, and what I have here is an ASP.NET project open. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is the same step that Stuart showed, which is basically Docker enable this project. And so again, the easiest thing you can do is just right-click now inside VS 2017 and add that Docker support. And what this is doing now is basically updating my project with a couple different files. And so one of the files you can see here is this Docker file. And this is referencing the ASP.NET Core engine, because this is using .NET Core. But again, it could just as easily have referenced the full .NET Framework-based container image as well. And what I can then do inside here is just go ahead and, for example, build it. And hopefully this will build for me. And you can see this is packaged up, that Docker container. And then I can go ahead and click this Docker button. And this is now going to run this application on my local development machine. And give me kind of a full interactive debugging and development experience that I can go ahead and leverage. So you can notice here I'm launching the debugger. The very first time it's running, which is now on my machine, it's going to take a few seconds because what it's doing is booting up in the background a full containerized environment using Hyper-V on my system. But Visual Studio is basically integrated as part of that. And so this is running now. Oop, it was until I accidentally clicked the close button. You're going to see how fast it is to run the second time. But this is now running basically in a virtualized environment on my local development machine here. And there it is. And what I can go ahead and do is take advantage of all the same kind of capabilities that you'd expect when you're using Visual Studio. So for example, let's go ahead and set a breakpoint on a particular action method. So in this case here, I'm just going to set a breakpoint on the about. And so if I go ahead and click the about, I'm broken the debugger. I have that same development debugging experience that I'm used to. But in this case here, it's running inside a Docker container in a fully Dockerized environment within my machine. And just to make it more fun, this Docker-based app that I'm running, because I'm using .NET Core, is actually running on an Ubuntu-based image, or a Debian-based image actually, on my virtual machine. But I have that full debugging experience as part of it, and everything I'm used to and know and love as part of Visual Studio and .NET, I can leverage. I can also go ahead and, if I wanted to, even make changes in real time. And so, for example, let's go ahead and change the about box here, and I could say, hello, Tel Aviv. hit save. I can go ahead back here and hit refresh. And what you'll see is the text changed in real time. And we basically done the handshake with Docker so that you can actually make content and code changes and have a very fast iterative loop between the development experience and the development environment. And now it's really easy to basically locally develop and test, again, within any type of .NET application and containerize this thing up. And in this case here, it's a single project, but I could also go ahead and use, for example, a Docker Compose file so that I could actually have multiple projects within my solution, each of which might represent a separate microservice that I want to be able to deploy into a containerized environment and run. And so again, it's a really easy way that whether it's a single container or multiple containers, I can use them all together. Now let's try something else for the first time, which is try to deploy this on Azure. And in the same way I can right-click and add Docker support to my local development environment, I can also go ahead and right-click and hit publish. And this is going to basically bring up a publish dialog inside Visual Studio, which allows me to choose where I want to go ahead and deploy this environment, and this application. And this will work to any Docker-based host, so it doesn't have to be Azure, but we obviously have great support built into Azure. And what I'm going to go ahead and do here is create now a new Azure App Service, similar to what we did in the portal earlier when I was on a Mac. But in this case here, I'm creating it directly inside Visual Studio. And I think in this case here, it's creating it in the western half of the US, so it's going to do a little bit more handshake back and forth because it's halfway around the world. But in this case here, you can see it's creating the deployment environment that's going to basically be able to host this application. And it's downloading the publish profile settings. And hopefully what we should see in about 5 seconds, great, is this little experience here, which now allows me to take this .NET app, hit publish, and now Visual Studio is going to directly deploy this .NET application that we've containerized into a container host running inside Azure halfway around the world, and basically provision it and basically stand it up to run. And so what you're seeing here now is this is using the standard Docker deploy technology to basically push the image from my local machine into this remote environment. And you can see there's multiple little steps here, and those are called layers. And so one of the powerful things about container-based technology is you don't have to deploy a giant binary when you deploy your application. You can say this part of my container depends on another layer, which in turn depends on another layer, and depends on another layer. And so the base layer is your sort of OS image, and then I might have a layer for .NET, I might have a layer for other customized environments, and then all the way up is my application layer. And that means that it's very lightweight to deploy, and it also means that I have a consistent experience so that what I'm running in the cloud should look to my code exactly like my local development tool. And what I have here now is this application. It says hello Tel Aviv just to prove it's real. We've Dockerized it. We pushed it up into Azure. It's now running in an environment that I can auto scale up and auto scale down, running entirely in the cloud. I can even remotely debug it directly inside Visual Studio. And you can see how easy it is to get started and do this even from scratch when you're not prepared to do it, which is what I was in that situation. But hopefully you kind of get a sense of just, again, how easy it is to start taking advantage of container-based technology. So, cool. Thanks, Stuart. And it's useful to be able to always still remember how to power up Visual Studio and do demos when the other demo machine doesn't work. So cool. So this demo hopefully highlighted how easy it is to get started with container-based development using Visual Studio 2017 and .NET, and how simple it is to deploy container-based apps to Azure. And in this demo here, we showed how to take advantage of the new container support that we've added built into that Azure App Service, the same one that you saw us demo with the Node.js app earlier. And this container support enables you to package up and deploy any web or mobile backend in a container and run and scale it using the Azure App Service. So it doesn't just work with .NET, it works with Node or Java or Go or Python or Ruby or any other development language or development stack you want to take advantage of. And we really think this new Azure App Service support that we showed here for containers is going to make it incredibly easy for developers, including ones who've never used Docker or container before, to start taking advantage of them and easily deploy solutions with them. Now, where containers become even more powerful is when you can start to take advantage of them across multiple parts of your solution and leverage them with a microservice-based approach to development. So for example, you might have your web app talk to multiple back-end microservices that you want to deploy and run using containers. And some of these microservices might even be written in multiple different programming languages. And the updates that we've made over the last month to Azure now make it really easy to build and deploy these type of microservice-based solutions. And to do so with a full DevOps lifecycle that enables you to integrate all of this work across any size development team and organization. Now, our Azure Container Service is one of our built-in services inside Azure. And it provides a fully managed platform service that enables you to easily deploy and orchestrate applications made up of multiple different containers. And the Azure Container Service is kind of special in that it's the only container service provided by any of the major cloud providers that supports all the most popular container orchestration frameworks, including Apache Mesos, Docker Swarm, as well as Kubernetes. And this container service supports both Linux-based containers as well as Windows Server-based containers. And it's available in general availability today. And we're also going to make it available on premises as part of our Azure Stack offering, so you can have a consistent, again, hybrid development experience that works both inside your data center as well as within ours. And we've also then recently updated our Visual Studio Team Services to be able to provide a complete DevOps solution for container-based development. And so we now, for example, support built-in continuous integration support with new Docker-based build tasks. And we're also delivering automated multi-container deployment support as well as overall release management. So what does this mean? So for example, I could go ahead now and very easily log into Visual Studio Team Services. We even support free accounts, so you can get started and actually stay free for quite a while. And what this basically lets you do is you can basically point to any source control repository. So it could be one that's hosted in Visual Studio Team Services, and we have built-in Git support as well as TFS support. But you can also even just point to, say, if you have a project on GitHub, we can even point to that remote GitHub project. And then anytime anyone checks in code as part of that project, whether it's local, whether it's in VSTS, or whether it's on GitHub, we'll handle that trigger, and we can automatically run a full Docker-based build against it. And each of these individual build tasks here on the left-hand side can be customized with different settings. You can add your own logic, for example, so that if you want to test the container for antivirus and make sure the binaries are clean, there's a good partner of ours called Aqua that you can go ahead and easily inject into that build pipeline. And you can write your own custom logic or code that will run as part of it as well. And then once it's built, you can decide how you want to deploy it. You could say, I want to automatically deploy it into a test environment, or you can also take advantage of some of the capabilities that we have that we call release management to be able to define custom release environments. So I might have a dev, I might have a test, and I might have a production. And you can set up different rules for who's allowed to deploy what, whether it should go automatically or whether a manager or an architect needs to hit an explicit approval button before it deploys. And we have full customization support and easy integration so that you can deploy it, again, into any Docker host. But obviously, we have great support for being able to do that directly within Azure as well. And this gives you kind of a complete end-to-end DevOps environment for doing container-based development. And we think really enables you to build fantastic modern apps that work everywhere. So what I'd like to do is invite on Deckel, who's the Director of Operations for BioCatch, which is another great company based here in Israel that's running on Azure, and have him talk a little bit about his Azure experience and some of the container work that they're doing as part of their development.
Okay, so thank you. Let me explain first what BioCatch does. BioCatch is the behavioral biometrics authentication and malware company. Basically, what we do, we collect a lot of cognitive information from mobile and web sessions. At the end of the day, we know to identify that this is the real user doing the action against the website. We create unique profile for each user. We model it to the behavior, and then we know if the user is the real user. In using that technology, we can provide threat detection, cyber attack, and a lot of cool stuff around that area. BioCatch has been around for about 5 years, and we are now currently deployed in large banks and websites in Latin America, Europe, and North America.
And you're using containers on Azure.
Yeah. So a few months back ago, we came to a conclusion that we need to redesign our architecture in order to support the scale and the product needs. We had a really big boost, and we understand that we're at a tip point, we need to change something. And when we started work with the team at Microsoft to see how we can redesign our architecture, we basically said, we're going to need to start from scratch here, and we basically are taking everything from the starting point. And we did a lot of changes. One of the major changes we did is we started working with container. We choose Azure Container Services, ACS, to be our underlying infrastructure for the entire project. It's basically BioCatch 1.0 and BioCatch 2.0 are two different type of software stack underneath. And we utilize this Azure Container Services as part of the project. We are now at a point that we're thinking container first. I would need someone to really give me a good excuse why not to containerize something. So we are now at a point in the project where we see the value of the Azure Container Services. We are running much more faster. Development life cycle is much more faster and streamlined. And a lot of the obstacles that we had in BioCatch 1.0 are simplified or removed as a result of using the Azure Container Services and the container environment.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for being on Azure and
Thank you.
joining us today. So there's lots of services within Azure that you can take advantage of to build amazing applications. And this chart here, I talked about just some of the managed services that we provide. We focused a lot on compute so far and how you can write code, but we have lots of built-in services that you can use for storing data, both in relational as well as NoSQL-based databases, for doing analytics with Hadoop-based systems, for doing media streaming and media coding, identity management, and a whole bunch more. And throughout the breakout talks, you'll get a sense of just some of those services and how you can leverage them, but even in the breakout talks, we'll only really scratch the surface about what you can do and all the things that you can take advantage of. What I want to talk a little bit about now, though, is some of the unique capabilities that we do have that enable you to combine software with data to really enable more intelligent-based applications. And as part of this, we have a lot of really rich services that you can leverage to build your own models, like Deckel talked about with BioCatch, where you can take your own data, you can train it, you can take advantage, for example, of our GPU-based hardware. You can take advantage of some of our new FPGA work that's coming out to really build your own custom solutions that have deep, deep intelligence. But you can also take advantage of some of our services that we provide where you don't have to be a data scientist in order to actually get intelligence from data. Instead, you can take advantage of what we call our cognitive APIs, or cognitive services that are built into Azure, which actually have pre-trained models and pre-trained algorithms that you can leverage to do a lot of rich things. So for example, we have APIs that do language translation, that can do speech detection, that can do vision detection, photo and video analysis, and a whole bunch more. And for all these, you can basically just call them with simple REST-based APIs. We also have SDKs for languages like .NET and Java and Node and others, so that you can also use those and not even have to understand the underlying REST syntax. And the end result enables you to build some pretty cool apps and to take advantage of some pretty cool capabilities. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we can switch back to demo machine 2. I'm going to go ahead and log in back to my machine and show off a cool app that you can download. It's called I think it's called our demo app, actually. But it basically is an app that you can download, and all the code's available on GitHub. So you can also look at the code for everything I'm showing here to see exactly how it was built. But this gives you a couple of pre-built sample apps that illustrate how to take advantage of some of these cognitive APIs. and that you can leverage both in terms of from mobile apps, from Windows apps, from web apps, as well as any of the back-end logic that you run on top of Azure. And one of the API services that we provide is one that can actually do image as well as video-based analysis. And so I'm going to run this one right here. It's called Real-Time Crowd Insights. And what this is actually going to do, it's using my webcam on my machine, and you'll notice it's tracking my face. So it's looking at this image and automatically detecting what is the face of the particular user. And you'll notice when I look at it, ooh, I've got a lot older, but it's the jet lag. Yeah, anyway, I'm not 51, but I'm neutral right now. But you'll notice if I smile, it detects that I'm happy. And that's a little closer. But anyway, it gives you kind of a sense here in real time how I'm using this analysis on top of just a raw image, in this case coming from a webcam, to be able to do a lot more in terms of the reasoning. And again, this is using a built-in model that we've trained at Microsoft that you can take advantage of, so you don't have to be a data scientist expert in order to do it. Now what's nice about this model is not only do we give you kind of a pre-trained model for detecting people and emotions, but we also, as part of the API, give you some hooks so that if you want to go a little bit further without still having to be a data scientist, you can also upload, for example, custom images of people and have the model be trained on those people to be able to identify them. So for example, I've got a list of people. Right now it's just my boss. I'm going to add myself here. And when I go inside here, I can go ahead and search the web for pictures of me. This is a much younger me with more hair. A few more here. And this is basically downloading images through Bing into this application environment. And then what this app's doing is uploading them to the Cognitive Service API and saying, this person is Scott Guthrie. This set of images represents Scott Guthrie. And I can then go ahead and rebuild the model. And now, when I go back to that application on the demo, not only is it going to detect roughly how old I am and whether I'm a male and how happy I am, you'll notice it now has identified this is actually Scott Guthrie using those other images of me that were uploaded. It's basically looked at the entire model and said with roughly, let's see how much accuracy, 68% accuracy, it's pretty sure it's me. And again, this is sort of just one example of how you can take advantage of these APIs without having to be a data scientist and get deep insight and learning from it and be able to kind of build much more intelligent apps as a result. So we'll switch back to the slides now. What I want to do is invite another company that's based here in Israel that's on Azure and that's taking advantage a lot of this sort of insight and analytic capabilities on stage. And so we have Gal on stage here, who's the co-founder and CTO of AudioBurst.
Hi, guys.
Yeah. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about AudioBurst.
Cool. So AudioBurst wants your interaction with the bots that everybody's talking about to be totally different. So the next time you ask your bot, who won the World Series, you won't get the Cubs won the World Series. You actually hear the roar of the crowd, the last pitch, the home run, and then the announcer going, wow, the Cubs won the World Series. So that's basically the emotional interaction. We're doing that. And Audio is building the millions of these emotional audio clips. We call them bursts. And we do that by tapping into live content like live radio and podcasts and any other audio content and analyzing it live and building that huge repository, which we then deliver and send to users to interact with.
And can you tell us a little bit about some of the services you're using on Azure to build that? Because my understanding is there's a lot of intelligence and analytics that you need to be able to
So
use.
we're a startup, and I know building a huge task like that as a startup is very difficult. So we found the cloud, and specifically Azure Cloud, have a lot of building blocks that could help us build exactly that. So if I'll just do an architecture real quickly, so we're using Linux services for stream analytics, and we're doing GPUs for speech to text, and we're using the cognitive search, and we're doing Lewis, which is a huge platform for NLU, and then we take all that and build our own core technology on Service Fabric, which is a cluster of services, and analyzing that and putting everything in Azure Search. So we're using Azure Search and Azure Media Services to stream the audio back to you. So there's a lot of building blocks on Azure that help you deal with the things that are not our own technology. So we let you guys scale for us, we let you guys manage that for us, and we just basically do our magic stuff, make it happen.
Cool. Well, it's great to see some of the success you guys are having. And in fact, I think the audio captioning for the live stream
It's done
we're
by
showing
us
today
right
is
now.
actually being done with their technology in real time,
Yeah.
all hosted on Azure.
So Microsoft is a customer and not just a great partner. And the cognitives that you mentioned are amazing. Like you can use speech-to-text, and you can train that, which is good. We actually use our own, but for the interaction, we use yours, which is amazing. And search is an amazing platform. Check that out, guys. It's really good. So, thank you a lot. It helped us, become a small startup, build a big business out of that.
Awesome.
Thank you
you
very
so
much.
much. So we talked a lot about some of the development scenarios and how you can build solutions that can use any technology, that you can use both infrastructure as well as higher level services and deploy and scale throughout the cloud. I want to turn a little bit now and talk about how you manage all this. So how many people here in the audience are within IT that are actually managing the operations for infrastructure and for applications? Good, a lot of people. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what makes Azure unique and how you can leverage Azure, not just to manage the infrastructure and the applications that are being hosted in the cloud, but also how you can use those same services to manage your existing on-premises environment as well, and deliver a true hybrid cloud management story that enables you to kind of use a consistent set of tools regardless of where your applications are deployed, regardless of what OS they're deployed on, and be able to kind of see and manage all of that in a consistent, clear way. And the great thing is Azure makes it easy. And so rather than me talk about it, let's actually flip back to machine 2 if we could, and let's actually show it off in action. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm logged into the Azure Management Console that you saw us use earlier on the Mac when we built that Node.js app. And I'm not going to talk not about the development side, but more about, from an IT operations side, how do I actually know how the apps and the VMs and the infrastructure that I stood up, whether it's working, and how do I actually manage that in a clean, consistent way. So you'll notice here on my dashboard, I have a slightly different dashboard than the view I saw earlier, which is, you notice we have lots of visuals. And we'll talk more about these in just a second, but these are actually kind of giving me a nice heads-up display about the health of my services and applications. We also now have built into Azure something we call the monitor capability of it. And this is basically by default on the left-hand side of every Azure dashboard. And when you click it, it basically provides a single view that allows you to see the health and the overall operations of everything that you have deployed in our cloud, as well as within your own environment as well. So for example, we have what's called an activity log, which allows anyone, either IT from an operations perspective or from a development perspective, to be able to see any change that happened inside this Azure environment. So I can see anytime someone changed a setting, deployed something, removed something. Provides a nice way that you can actually keep track of in an environment with lots of people, what's going on in the system. We also now have built-in metrics so that I can actually take any resource, again, whether it's infrastructure or whether it's an individual service, I can pull it up, and if I wanted to see, for example, let's see, network activity, I can graph that in real time and basically see the health of that particular resource. I can create any, I can look at individual resources like this in an easy way. The other thing I can do is take advantage of this ability to pin it to a dashboard. And so if I click that, if you remember, I showed you that heads-up display at the beginning and said there's lots of these different tiles that are pinned. That's that tile that we just created now pinned to the dashboard. And I can customize it, and if I want to lay this out, so for example, if I want to edit the dashboard, I could basically move this however I want and effectively configure it so that it's perfect for my particular team or the particular view of my team that I want to be able to manage. So again, it makes it very easy for you to go ahead and look up individual resources and be able to see the health of them. Now, typically in an environment, you might see, hey, I've got a metric that's going down from a heads-up display. I log in, who changed what in the environment. that hopefully pinpoints some change just happened that Joe made, and Joe's out of the office right now. So what did Joe do, and how do I investigate? And that's where you can take advantage of another new capability that we now have in Azure we call log search. Basically what this does is not only gives you the ability to create those kind of graphical views that are pre-canned, but also allows you on any particular part of your environment to actually zoom in effectively and ask interactive queries against what's happening in the system. So for example here, if I want to, I can just go ahead and write a query. I'm just going to call it star to begin with. And this is now running a log search across all of the different log entries being collected across my infrastructure running in the cloud, as well as I've got a few VMware-based systems running back in a data center that are pumping their logs into this environment as well. And you can see right now there's 6 million log entries inside this particular environment. Oops. Help right there. You can see there's 6 million entries. If I want to see what type of entries there are, I'm going to go ahead and write a query that says pull back all the entries and then go ahead and measure it and count it by the different types. And so again, you can see we have lots of different types of entries, whether they're perf, whether they're security, whether they're database, whether they're infrastructure that I can search across. And if I want to see, for example, why is my database health starting to decline, I could run a query like this. And basically this is going to say, look at all of the SQL-based queries. I want to basically look at every subscription that starts with advisor, and then I'm going to use a wildcard. So I might have multiple subscriptions that I'm running different resources in. And I want to basically measure the max average based on a 20-minute interval across all those resources. And so now when I go ahead and paste this in, this is running this chart in real time, took those 6 million results, found the 648 points that represent the average database CPU utilization. If I want to see, hey, there's a little dip right here, I could even go ahead and zoom into that particular point and see exactly which of the particular resources is having a problem. I could even see it in interactive tabular mode if I want to be able to pinpoint exactly which resource was the one I need to go ahead and investigate. And the beauty is all this type of log search, metrics, auditing, and health is all built into the system. And every service inside Azure either is pumping data into this environment right now or will soon. And again, you can set it up so that if you have, for example, System Center being used to manage your Windows Server environments on premises, you can take the existing SCOM agent that's inside those System Center deployments, push the data into here, and you can now do this against your on-prem environment systems as well. We do the same with OMS. We also have built-in adapters for VMware-based environments, as well as pretty much every other hosting environment that you want to be able to take advantage of and use. Now, the last thing you got to think about from a hybrid management perspective is not just from an operations perspective, but also then from a security perspective, because since security is so paramount now in terms of how you manage and take advantage of things. And so one of the other great features that we have built into Azure that you can leverage for both, again, your Azure resources as well as your on-premise resources is something we call the Azure Security Center. And so I'm just going to go ahead and click this, and we'll bring it up. I should actually say all the capabilities I'm about to demo here are actually built only about 10 minutes away here in Tel Aviv by our Azure team that's actually based here. And it really enables you to kind of run applications, run infrastructure in the cloud with much greater security and much greater knowledge that you're following security best practices and that your environment is going to basically be as secure as possible. And the way it does that is because the Security Center basically will automatically, if you opt into it, scan your environment looking for potential security vulnerabilities that you've inadvertently exposed as you're building and deploying infrastructure or apps. So for example, I'm on a subscription here that has a lot of problems. This is not my personal subscription. That one is a little healthier. But you can see I have 204 high severity issues with this particular demo environment. And when I click on virtual machines as an example, it's pinpointing for me what are the types of things that I need to go look at that cause my environment to be less than secure than it should. So for example, I've got missing disk encryption on what looks like 45 of my VMs. I have VMs where they've been patched, but we forgot to reboot them. And so the security patches actually haven't taken effect yet. And again, I can pinpoint exactly which one of those they are and take appropriate action. I don't have endpoint protection turned on several of them and so forth. I can see this not just for VMs, I can see it for networking, I can see it for data services, I can also see it for applications. And so this will tell me, for example, in networking that I don't have my subnet set up in the most secure way, and so I have much more promiscuous network access between my environment than I ideally should. And all these things are provided for you, in a very prescriptive way on how to go ahead and fix. And you can deploy solutions very easily in order to do that. And then the other thing that the Security Center has built in is we're using constantly machine learning of our own in the background, looking at the signals across your environment to try to detect if someone is trying to breach them and be able to give you proactive warnings whenever we see something happening that looks like a security attack. And we basically take these signals not just from our infrastructure, but we also partner with other vendors out there, whether it's Cisco, whether it's FireEye, whether it's F5, and a wide variety of different security partners, so we can take their signals as well as integrate it into this environment. So you can see, for example, we've detected what looks like a SQL injection attack happening against one of your databases inside the cloud, where you've left open, say a web app, an unencoded SQL parameter that you're passing in directly to the database. Our built-in database services will automatically detect that and signal what looks like an exfiltration attempt is happening. I can also see, for example, if one of my VMs is starting to communicate with a machine out on the internet that we suspect is a command and control center for malware. And again, be able to immediately tell you that as part of the environment. And again, integrate it into the single heads-up dashboard view that can ultimately make you a lot more secure. And everything that's exposed, again, through this portal, whether it's the monitoring support, whether it's the security support, is also available through APIs, through command line scripting. And we even have built-in adapters, so if you're using Splunk or ArcSight or other popular security or management tools, it can automatically feed that information directly into those tools, so you can basically have your operators use the existing tools and knowledge they already have and be able to immediately apply it to any cloud-based deployment. So let's go ahead and switch back now to the slides. I'm going to talk about a couple of other customers here in Israel that are taking advantage of Azure, and in particular leveraging that hybrid management and hybrid infrastructure capability that I talked about as part of their solutions. And so Amdocs, whole business here is really around providing customer experience solutions. Their traditional products were billing solutions to leading carriers and service providers around the world. And over the years, they've evolved that and are providing increasingly now SaaS-based solutions as well that they want to be able to deliver through the cloud. And Amdocs is leveraging Azure in many different areas, ranging from some of their internal IT systems to these customer-facing SaaS solutions, and are able to take advantage, again, of this hybrid capability to give them maximum flexibility as they do it. Another customer here in Israel is the leading largest bank, so Bank Hapoalim. Did I get that right, the pronunciation? Okay. Tried. But they are the largest bank here in Israel. They've got a huge presence, not just here in Israel, but also from a global financial perspective around the world. And they're leveraging also a variety of capabilities of Azure, both for their internal and their external systems. And by leveraging both Azure and also Office 365, they're improving their time to market. They're really able to build much more innovative solutions for the bank. And they're able to reduce their costs, increase their BCP and DR capability, and improve their overall employee productivity. So we've talked about a whole bunch of different capabilities in Azure. I could talk for many more hours, but I'm not. But it hopefully gives you a sense whether you're a developer, whether you're an operator, whether you're deploying purely in the cloud as a startup, or whether you're deploying in a hybrid environment as an existing organization. There's a lot of power, there's a lot of capabilities you can leverage. And hopefully, as you saw through some of the demos, it's pretty easy to get started and really take advantage of it. Let's switch gears now and talk about some of the work we're also doing on the productivity side to enable you to have even more secure, productive employees within your organization, and be able to take advantage of a lot of the SaaS-based capabilities that we deliver in order to be more effective and more productive as an organization. I think one of the things, obviously, we're seeing in the world today is just this need from a productivity perspective for us to basically have organizations that can collaborate better, that can make decisions in a better way, and to work together as a team even more effectively. And across Microsoft, we're working on a number of different areas that we're bringing together to kind of enable you to take advantage of all this, to build more high-functioning teams and be able to take advantage of the productivity that you want to get out of your organization, and to be able to do it in an incredibly secure way, so that you can also meet the modern threat environment that we all operate within. You know, with Windows 10, we've shipped a fantastic operating system that feels familiar to users, but has built into it a whole bunch of improved productivity capabilities that enable you to get the most out of your operating system as well as your computer and your hardware. And built into it also is a ton of security capabilities that are really differentiated and unique and enable you to have the most secure device experience of any operating system out there. With Office 365, we're delivering a rich set of collaboration tools that are deeply integrated into Windows, but also work, as you'll see in some of the demos, with iOS, with Android, on a Mac, so that you can actually have your employees be able to roam across all the different types of devices, both work as well as personal, and be incredibly productive on them. And built into Office 365 now is a huge range of rich capabilities to be able to leverage in a team-based environment. And with our enterprise mobility and security offerings, you know, we now deliver the ability for you to manage all of this, whether it's devices with Windows, whether it's devices with iOS or Android, whether it's applications with Office 365 or other SaaS-based applications that you might have, and be able to kind of secure and manage it and enable employees to use these devices and apps that they love while keeping the company secure. And what I'd like to do is invite Ben on stage to actually show off from a user experience some of these productivity benefits in action, and to be able to kind of highlight how you can leverage them to delight your employees even more. So here's Ben.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, so I'm going to start first of all on my iPhone, because this is the device that we all have. And what I want to do is take a little bit of time to show you how you can be more productive and how we're taking advantage of the power of Azure and the cloud and creating great intelligent features in the way you work every day as well. So I'm going to start on my iPhone, and I'm going to start first of all with Outlook. Now, Outlook is a free application to access your mail and has been heralded as the #1 application to access mail no matter what platform you're on. Now, that's because of features like swipe gestures that I can use to be able to quickly and easily triage my email no matter where I am. The ability to bring both my work and my personal email accounts together in a single application as well are other reasons why people love the new Outlook experience. And using the power of the cloud and the Microsoft Graph to provide features like the focused inbox that takes the important emails and the things that I want to respond to and brings those to the top in an easy way for me to be able to see those and focus on the things that are important to me. And other features like integrated calendar and file store as well, which just make it a really seamless experience no matter what I'm doing. But we've continued to build on the Office applications and the Outlook application specifically to make it even easier for you to work with email. So at the top of my inbox here, I have my flight itinerary for my trip here to Tel Aviv. And one of the things with these types of emails, whether it's a flight itinerary or a tracking email of some sort for packages that I've ordered, they're always hard to find the details and the specifics that I want. But as I click into this email here, you'll notice that Outlook's actually looked at the content of that email and put the things that are important for me right at the top there in the form of these action cards. So I can see right here when my flights are leaving, where they're leaving from, where my connections are happening. And for flights that I haven't checked into, you can notice I have a link right there to the website to be able to go and check into my flight. And so with the power of these action cards, it makes it easier for me not only to access and consume my email, but also take action on that as well. Now, one of the other areas of challenge when we're on the road is how do I deal with my schedule? How do I schedule meetings and know what's happening in a really easy fashion? And we've added a couple of new features that subtly make it easy for you to work with your agenda. First is these agenda icons that as I scroll through, you can see I've got some lunch appointments, I've got one-on-ones, you can see that flight there as well, and all have icons that have been assigned by Outlook based on the title of the appointment that allow me to see at a glance what's happening. But what I want to do now is I want to go and schedule a new coffee appointment. And you'll notice as I do that, Outlook gives that the icon, and I'm going to go and schedule that with Pavel. And so I'm going to go and add Pavel to my meeting here. And one of the biggest challenges when we schedule meetings is knowing when everyone's available, and especially when we're on the mobile device. But now as I go and select my time, Outlook's going to go and check the times available for me, and all I have to do is simply slide through and find the time that suits for me and place that appointment there. So in a really easy way, I can go and schedule my time with Pavel and know that everyone's going to be available for that coffee meeting at that point in time. Now, when we think about collaboration, we made a new announcement or welcomed a new product to the Office family recently in Microsoft Teams. And Teams is an amazing application for people to be able to have a chat-based workspace where teams can come together and work together in this chat environment. And not only did we launch an application on the PC, but also across all mobile platforms. And so this here is the Teams application running on my phone. At the bottom here, you can see my navigation that takes me through alerts of where I am and people that have mentioned me. I can see my chats and people that I'm working with, and obviously the teams that I'm working on as well. But the beauty is that the mobility of this experience follows me not only from the phone, but also to my PC. And so as I move over to my PC here, you'll notice there's that same Teams experience now blown up to my full screen on my PC. I've got that same navigation here in what we call the left rail, where again, I can see my activities and my chats and my teams. But because I'm on the PC, I can also take advantage of other products like Skype for Business, which is deeply integrated. And so I can see here all of my meetings that I'm about to have today or throughout the week integrated right here into my Teams experience. Now, next to that is my list of teams. And each team is divided up into channels. A channel is simply a group of people within my team that are focused on a specific topic. So for example, I have my Graphic Design Institute here, and I can see I have a number of different channels that are related to different things that the graphic design team are working on. Now, if we look at this Arts and Media Festival, and I click into that, and if I scroll through, you can see I have a whole range of information and threaded conversations that are happening with really, really rich content. We have memes and stickers for times when text is just not the way you want to get across. And if I scroll to the bottom here, you can also see that we've got a number of different meetups that have happened. Because we have the integration with Skype for Business, it's really easy for me to start a video conversation with people on the team. We can see here that we have a couple of people who are in a meetup at the moment, and I'm just going to go ahead and join them. And with a click of a button, you'll notice I'll go and connect in, and we'll watch the other two people come into here as well. So we've got Mira and Tucker who are in there. Their pictures don't do them justice, and so, hey guys, how you doing? And anyone who's behind them, feel free to wave as well. But it's a really easy way for me to be able to have those conversations and have face-to-face conversations as part of that as well. So great ways to bring teams together to collaborate more effectively. Now I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to move over to Edge. Now Microsoft Edge is the most secure browser out there, and with the addition of Windows Device Application Guard, Windows Defender Application Guard, I know that no matter where I'm browsing and no matter what I'm doing, I have the most secure experience within my Windows 10 environment. Today, I'm actually showing you the new My Analytics dashboard. My Analytics is an extension of what we originally had with Delve, and Delve is built on the Microsoft Graph. The Microsoft Graph takes the signals on the people I work with, the things I work on, the teams I work on, and uses those signals to bring me insights and information on what I'm doing throughout the day. In the case of My Analytics, it's giving me details on how I'm spending my time and really helping me to drive my personal productivity. I can see my meeting hours, email, time after hours, trying to catch up on my job and actually get my work done. And at this high level, it's kind of a Fitbit view of my work, but as I scroll down, I can actually start to get additional information. And if we look at my meetings, I can see here that I attend a lot of meetings throughout the week, and a lot of those meetings I'm spent multitasking during those meetings, which means I'm probably not really concentrating on what's going on. And so what I can do here is I can actually drill into that and start to see which of those meetings that week were recurring meetings and which ones I was actually multitasking in. So I can see where I can claw back time and really drive my personal productivity further. Now, it's not just within Delve and the Microsoft Graph that we're creating intelligent experiences for people. We're also continuing to redevelop the core Office applications that we know and love to help create experiences that will help you create better content quicker and easier. I'm going to move over to Word here, and we've all seen a Word document like this that has a number of different spelling mistakes. And with the power of Azure and the cloud, we can actually start to provide new experiences for people who have both English as a second language and also as a primary language to be better understood and create better content. So you'll see here that, for example, I have a principle as a word that's spelt wrong. We're now creating new experiences where if I right-click that, I not only get the spelling, but I get the definitions of the different types of word of principle as well. So I know I'm getting the right word in context of that sentence, and I know I'm using the right version of the word in that as well. Or things where I have words that in theory are spelt correctly, but just not the right word for the sentence. Word can now pick those up. So whether it's affect or effect, I can go ahead and correct that as needed. But we can also take this a step further. And using natural language processing, I can actually start to create more concise and better sentences and help people construct better documents. So here we can see I have a number of examples where I use things like wordiness and redundancy. So her backpack was very large in size. And with the new gold squiggle, I can right-click that, and Word will go and suggest that I can make this more concise by just saying her backpack was very large. Or things where, and one of the big things at Microsoft we have is a really drive for inclusion and making sure that we are a diverse workforce. And things like gender-specific language are things we do naturally that we don't always take note of. But you'll notice Word here can actually highlight things like the state should hire more policemen. If I right-click that, it will actually suggest that I correct that to the state should hire more police officers and make that more gender inclusive. So just ways that we're using the power of the cloud to create better content and help you create better outputs. Now, the other big challenge that we've addressed is how do I actually get started? How do I go from nothing to having something to show? And with PowerPoint Quick Starter, it's an easy way for me to be able to build a presentation from nothing. Now, PowerPoint Quick Starter shows up in the template section of PowerPoint. I'm just going to quickly go through this. And what I want to do is actually build a presentation about Tel Aviv. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. I'm going to put in here Tel Aviv, because that's where we are today, hit search, and using the power of the Bing Knowledge Graph in the cloud, I can actually go and get information about Tel Aviv. And going through the wizard here, I get different sections that I want to include in my presentation. I can go ahead and select the things I want and click next. I'll go and get a number of different template layouts to use for my presentation as well, which will come back in just a second. Select one of those and hit create. And then what PowerPoint will do is go to the cloud. It will pull back a range of information from Bing Knowledge Graph and the internet to give me a PowerPoint outline that will get me started on my presentation. And in just a second, there we go. I have my full presentation ready to go. I've got a couple of pointers at the start on what to do. But as I make my way through the presentation, you notice I have images, I have contents, I have my entomology. And as I go into different slides and I open up my notes here, you'll notice I actually get suggested talking points. So I'm not getting given all of the information I need, but I'm giving everything I need to get started and get past that cold start and actually build my presentation out. And these are some of the ways we're using the power of the cloud and intelligence to help create better output and build teams that are more collaborative. And with that, I'd like to hand back to Scott.
Great, thanks, Ben. So we've just covered a number of different things this morning. And hopefully gave you a sense of just the breadth of what the Microsoft Cloud is capable of, whether it's around productivity and business applications for your employees, whether it's around enabling you to build amazing applications that you can either sell or use to communicate better with your customers, or to be able to run your businesses even more effectively internally. Whether it's around being able to use data and intelligence to be able to get insight and to be able to take more intelligent action. And then whether it's around the security and management capabilities that we provide that enable you to kind of manage all of this in a way that's necessary to run the most business critical environments. We've just scratched the surface in terms of all the different capabilities the Microsoft Cloud provides, but hopefully gives you kind of a sense of the breadth of what it delivers. And we have a lot of great breakout talks throughout the rest of the day. They're going to go into more depth on some of those specific topics. And you can use all these services and all these capabilities individually. And what makes the Microsoft Cloud, again, special is that it also can be composed together to enable you to empower end-to-end experiences that you can enable even faster, that you can deliver on a global scale, that you can trust and have in a highly secure environment, and which, again, you can easily integrate into any existing environment that you already have in a very hybrid-rich way. And we're really looking forward to the opportunity to talk to you a lot more about the Microsoft Cloud throughout the rest of the day and this week. And again, I want to say a big thank you for all of you for coming out. And I look forward to getting your feedback and seeing what you build with it. Thanks very much and have a great day.